to a fucking park. Come here.
Get your hand off me.
Come here.
What?
Where were you?
I'm not talking to you about this. I'm not talking to you about this. Get your hand off me.
Who was there?
Get your hand off me.
Who was there? Tell me who was there.
People are looking at me.
There is a significant difference between the attitudes of humans towards male and female victims of domestic violence, assault, and rape. Why?
According to domesticviolencestatistics.org, domestic violence is the leading cause of injury to women, outnumbering accidents, muggings, and rapes. The website for the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence reports that 1 in every 4 women will experience domestic violence in their lifetimes. An estimated 1.3 million women are physically assaulted by an intimate partner each year.
Fairy tales are full of knights in shining armor riding their noble steed. They were the hero, the symbol of bravery, strength, and honor. But can the man ever be a victim? In post-Renaissance France, society ridiculed men thought to be dominated by their wives. Instead of the knight riding his noble steed, they received a donkey and were forced to ride it backwards as they were paraded through town. The idea of the day was that if anyone was going to be dominated, it would be the wife by her husband.
What do I do what? Do you ever listen to me?
Chrissy, stop it. You're crazy, man.
Manic. I've been talking at you for the last 10 minutes and you haven't listened. You haven't gotten into fucking what I've been saying to you. But you're fucking not even listening to me. That's what.
There was not as much information regarding domestic violence against men as there was about domestic violence against women. While some sites say that 85% of the victims of domestic violence are women, the controversial 2010 CDC survey found that 40% of men were victims of domestic physical assault. When it comes to deadly weapons, 63% of males reported having one used against them during a domestic assault versus 15% of females.
One problem with this topic is that not only has there been very little research conducted on domestic abuse against men, but statistics on domestic abuse against women are at risk for not being accurate due to it being one of the most underreported crimes. While research on men being victims of domestic abuse is becoming more prevalent, it is still in the early stages of research.
What is the nature of female violence? To answer that question, Malcolm George suggests the debate must be narrowed down to whether the violence is in retaliation to previous victimization and whether the resulting injury inflicted on a man by a woman can even compare to that inflicted on a woman by a man. But if a woman is considered the weaker of the two, does that take away from her act of violence on the man? Is the man less of a victim because the woman doing the harm isn't a man?
Ian is now slowly moving on with rebuilding his body and his life. He believes a tip-off to the police from an anonymous neighbour genuinely saved his life.
A lot of people will just not quite understand how it can happen, how you can't stand up to that kind of abuse.
Sure. Well, of course, as a victim, for me it's a gender-neutral crime. What actually happens is that your feelings, I loved my partner, those feelings get abused. It's wrong for a man to hit a woman. Violence of any description is wrong, so it wouldn't have solved it. I can't say why she committed the level of violence that she did, but the fact is for men that the other additional difficulties that they may not be believed if they come forward, so there's a challenge there.
In order to clearly understand the issue, we need to be sure we know the difference between domestic violence and self-defense. For starters, domestic violence is violent or aggressive behavior within the home, typically involving the violent abuse of a spouse or partner. Self-defense, on the other hand, is the defense of one's person or interests, especially through the use of physical force, which is permitted in certain cases as an answer to a charge of violent crime. So if a woman attacks a man who hasn't harmed her, is that self-defense? No. Self-defense would be a man using physical force against a violent woman. The two examples are, of course, interchangeable.
This video elicited a discussion among our group in arguing whether nature plays a part in the crowd's response to domestic violence or whether nurture plays a greater role.
One factor in support of the argument for nature are physical differences in regards to sex. Males have 20% more red blood cells than women and have slightly larger hearts. Females have a higher resting heart rate than men, but are less likely to experience high blood pressure. Males are more muscular with 50% more brute strength overall than women, with women having about 40% less upper body strength. Males also have a 30% greater lung capacity than females because of greater lung size. Males also have greater distance vision and depth perception and are more suited for lighted environments. Females have better night vision and have better visual memory than males. Males tend to be taller and heavier than women and are not as sensitive to sound as females. Males are also more prone to risk-taking behavior than females. Males have slightly larger brains than females, but there is no difference in levels of intelligence. With all this information, if we look at this from a biological standpoint, women are going to be viewed as needing protection from male aggression as opposed to a male needing protection from female aggression.
Nurture may better explain humans' attitude towards male or female victims of aggressive behaviors such as rape, domestic violence, etc. According to research, there is a positive correlation between low economic status and spousal abuse. This suggests that families in poorer communities are more likely to experience violent behaviors from their spouse, and the children grew up seeing their mothers as needing protection from their fathers.
Another argument in support of nature as opposed to nurture are hormones, specifically testosterone. Testosterone is a masculinizing sex hormone produced mainly by the testes, with a small percentage being produced by the adrenal glands. Males produce 6 to 8 milligrams of testosterone per day versus women who produce 0.5 milligrams of testosterone daily. Testosterone interactions with other hormones can cause profound effects on mood and behavior. According to a 2001 article in the McGill Journal of Medicine, there is strong evidence in animals that testosterone is directly associated with aggression, although this correlation is not as strong in humans. While hormones themselves do not directly cause any behaviors, they do induce chemical changes in certain neurons and in neural pathways, possibly having an effect on certain behavioral outcomes. However, one weakness in this argument is that testosterone is present in both aggressive and non-aggressive males. The paper theorizes that cognition and environmental circumstances are possible factors in the expression of aggression.
Another argument in favor of nurture is a study that examines the effect of acculturation on the attitudes held by Ethiopian Jews in Israel toward domestic violence. The study findings revealed the following. Ethiopians who immigrated to Israel held more lenient attitudes toward domestic violence than Israeli-born Jews, which supported the hypothesis that culture influences attitudes toward domestic violence. In addition, Ethiopians born in Israel held attitudes closer to those of Israeli-born Jews who were not from Ethiopian origin, thus supporting the hypothesis that integration into the host country results in changes in domestic violence attitudes.
Another supporting argument for nurture is Abraham Branduris' 1977 social learning theory. Aggression is learned from the environment through observation and imitation. This is seen in his famous Boo-Boo doll experiment done in 1961. Also, Skinner, 1957, believed that language is learned from other people via behavior shaping techniques, thus suggesting that humans act more on what they learn from their environment. Strickland of 2010 states that if humans were naturally and chaotically violent, our species would not have survived for millennia. Many socialists believe that aggression is mostly due to environmental terms like television, video games, models, or surrounding people. This includes the way we are brought up, the people we learn from, and the experiences we have had. All of these can affect us to behave a certain way. Social learning explains how we identify with others and model their behaviors.
Sociologists often consider aggression to be a learned behavior, acquired through faulty socialization. Many authors cite frustration or unmet needs as a key stimulant for violence. Some individuals find aggression personally reinforcing if they achieve goals or if it makes them feel important, powerful, and in control. Others see role models using aggression, infer that violence is acceptable, and imitate that behavior. Violence and aggressive sports and portrayed in media reinforce aggression. Thus, some people learn to use violence to define their social interactions.
Physical violence against women by their male intimate partners is a public health problem which has significant individual and social consequences, such as fear, depression, intense anxiety, and social isolation. However, not much is said about the effects of domestic violence on male victims. In conclusion, could it be that we have been socialized to speak out against domestic violence towards female and laugh when the male is the victim?
Or are we biologically predisposed to be more protective of a female than we are of a male?